Hello, you sexy beast. Welcome back to the James Kennedy podcast. Might I just say how fine you are looking today? Are you feeling good? Thanks so much to everybody for checking out the podcast. The listenership is growing every week. So hello and welcome aboard to everybody that's just checking us out now. You know I'm going to nag you to subscribe, like, comment, share, and get involved because I do that every single time. And like I said, I'm going to keep doing that until I've got every single last one of you. Special shout out as well to everybody that's donated to the PayPal link. That money goes directly to supporting the podcast. I don't have advertising or anything like that. So, that your donations help to keep the podcast advertising free so we can just get down to business and enjoy the chat. So thanks so much to everybody that spared some change to chip in for the podcast. I know times are difficult for everybody right now, so it really means a lot. And thank you so much. Right now, today, man, we are talking about heavy metal, mental health, and fatherhood. I'm joined today by Tristan Hugh Clark, another Welsh boy who's going to be telling us all about the Metalidads and what that is and what's going on. This was actually a hookup from Mr. Tom Damsel, who does my photography and also did some photography for the Metalidads. So he said, you've got to speak to these guys. They've got an awesome story. They're super cool. They're doing some great stuff and it's really taken off. So I'm super stoked to be able to make this happen. And welcome onto the podcast, Mr. Tristan Hugh Clark. How are you, man?
Hey, no worries at all. Just to sort of keep it themed, I suppose, I was always going to do a KKK reference. Bear with me, this is an interesting story. Or hang on, if I was in the Mormon religion, you refer to as elder something or elder something else. I think in the KKK, from what I read, you are known as brother something, but I'm known as Daddy Hugh. So I'm Daddy Hugh of Metalidads.
Right.
That's the sort of code name. So I'm Daddy Hugh and everyone else is Papa something. So we always refer to each other as Papa or Daddy and then our name. This just sort of adds into the hilarity of the theme, I suppose. But I'm fantastic today. Thank you very much. It was an incredibly stressful morning trying to get two very young girls to school or nursery on time and trying to put sun cream on them and get it dry. Oh my God, honestly, it's madness here in the morning, but I had 5 minutes in the car blasting metal music and I feel fantastic now because I also had a shower, which I don't always get a chance to do. So I had a 9-minute window to have a shower and a shave and I managed to do it. So I'm feeling amazing. A little bit like my old self today. Thank you very much. How are you keeping today on the theme of checking in with our bros? What's occurring with you?
Well, as I said before we came on, I'm currently nursing quite a brutal bourbon hangover. And as you pointed out, it is Wednesday morning. So yes, that means I was getting spanned on a Tuesday night. So I don't have kids or anything like that. So my morning has been slightly less superheroic than yours. And I feel shamefully inadequate now in your presence.
Stop flirting, you, James.
Okay, sorry, I'll stop. Okay, so Metalidads then, man. Let's dive right in. Tell us what it is, what's happening, what's going on.
Yeah, sure, man. No problem. I'll try and keep it simple. So simply, Metalidads is a mental health peer support group specifically aimed at fathers. And we are all bonded by our love for heavy metal music, hence the name Metalidads. So we're mainly based in Barry. That's where the headquarters is, Barry Bados. And I can actually see the sea from my bedroom where I'm currently sat. I can actually see Dover from where I am right. Not Dover, that'd be funny. Devon, wow. Sorry. Dover's the other. Barry, Christ, your eyesight is good, Hugh. I can see Devon from my bedroom right now. So we're Barry based, even though we've got members all over Wales, Cardiff, Ponty, Merthyr, Bridgend, Cardigan, Pontmerion, Colwyn Bay, Anglesey. We've got people in Gloucester, Cornwall, Oxford, London, even people in California, Paris, Johannesburg, and
wow.
Sydney. So online, we're actually we're global in our reach. But our mission is basically quite simple. We just try to get dads to have a bit more of a support network to compare stories and to share notes about dealing with sometimes difficult and tough situations associated with fatherhood, whether that is directly fathering children or maybe not being able to see your children or being bereaved because you can't see your children, or, for example, having issues like relationship or marriage problems or anything to do with weight or fitness or health, and then problems in work and anything else in between. So I wanted to create really a pool of knowledge where dads could dip in and ask other dads for advice on certain things. And in the week on our themed Facebook group, we upload sort of useful articles and discussion topics for dads to sort of come out of the, not come out of the closet, but sort of come out of the comfort zone to discuss difficult things. So that's the online thing. We in person, then we meet twice a week in Barry for a social where anyone is welcome, even if you're not a dad or even a dude. You can literally turn up if you're isolated or feeling lonely. We meet in Awesome Wales Zero Waste Shop on Holton Road in Barry between 10 and 12 on a Saturday morning. And then from about 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night, we meet in Barry Rugby Club for a pint and a game of pool and just to chat rubbish. And then we do random ad hoc things then throughout the month whenever we can, depending on what time of year it is. We do litter picks with our families. That's what we'll be doing probably once in July, once in August, once in September. We do board games and burgers night. We play, for example, have a bit of grub and play Cards Against Humanity, which is fantastic to release.
I love that game.
I know, man. We had one Monday last, I think this week that just went actually. And when I got home to my wife and she was still awake, it took me half an hour to get my breath back because I was laughing so much and coughing so much. It's such a good thing for the soul.
It's brilliant. I love it.
It really is. So we then in Barry, we run something called a signposting project where I have myself and Ben, we have liaised with lots of mental health organisations and family services across Barry, the Vale and Cardiff. Just if people come to us, we can actually signpost them or direct people so the traffic towards certain things that are available to get people professional help, because currently we're just a holistic approach rather than a professional mental health approach. So we do bits and bobs, just try to keep dads on the straight and narrow. And an extra thing I've been doing for the past 6 months, which is quite exciting because I know you like your music, you're a musician yourself. I've actually managed to get a foot into Metal Blade and Napalm Records, where quite regularly I interview people from semi-famous metal bands and I actually quiz them on things like fatherhood and mental health. So there's I even
that's awesome.
Interviewed a band last week from Arizona, mainly Arizona-based, a band called Kardashev, who released an album on Friday, which is quite likely going to be probably one of the best metal albums of 2022, an album called Liminal Right. So we were even talking about how recently James Hetfield from Metallica basically on stage admitted to a Brazilian crowd that he struggles with mental health. So we discussed that, for example, and his thoughts from the metal angle of what people should be doing in the metal community. So Metalidads are also trying to normalize a particular hashtag in the metal community of quite simply hashtag let there be talk. Very based loosely on the AC/DC Let There Be Rock, just trying to keep the rock and metal theme going. So that is a hashtag which we are associated with, and that's something I try to not push or encourage our metal brothers and sisters in the metal communities to sort of help push around. And normally at the end of the interview, they hold a piece of paper with a hashtag on the screen just to show they support it. So that's an extra thing we've been doing as well. So we sound really, 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 really busy, and we sort of are, but in the spirit of Metalidads, we had a big membership increase last year, and it got to the point where we were actually becoming not too successful, but it was becoming too much for a little amount of people to sort of manage. And it was not worth, in the spirit of what we do, just to sort of blow ourselves out and have mental health breakdowns, because we all got families. Well, we got families we're trying to keep afloat. So we've taken a big step back of what we potentially could have been doing at this time in a separate parallel universe, because I've only got one brain. I've got 2 children, wife, job. I recently was hospitalized, but I'll tell you about that maybe in a bit. We've had to take a step back, but we're still bubbling nicely, just trying to look after the members we already have and just trying to make sure dads are supported and they get a good bit of information, a bit of laughter in the form of memes or nice metal bands they can get introduced to for helps them in their day, for example. So that's sort of us in a nutshell. I say I keep it simple, but I've sort of gone off on one now because that's my style.
I love it. I'm exactly the same. Dude, there's so many questions popping up there just from listening to that description. I mean, firstly, I think it's so awesome that there's more and more things like this cropping up now for men, because, men are classically... We're not supposed to talk about these things. We're not supposed to be vulnerable. We're not supposed to have weaknesses. We're supposed to be strong at all times and keep our emotions down, and we're not we're still not, especially our generation and our father's generation, still not very comfortable talking about our feelings or our fears or our vulnerabilities. So I think it's really enlightening to see things like this popping up now, specifically for men to sort of be in a comfortable space with other men going through a similar thing where they can actually talk about these issues. I think that's obviously it's great for the individuals, but I think it's great for society more generally as well, because the sort of like the toxic masculinity that people talk about, where men have to kind of repress all their feelings and their emotions. It comes out in other ways, and that affects everybody. It affects parenting, it affects society, it affects, substance abuse and all that sort of stuff. So I think the things that you're doing with Metalidads, it's so broader reaching probably in the ripple effect that it has through society as well, rather than just the individuals involved. So I think it's brilliant to see more and more things popping up like this now to normalize the idea that it's okay for men to talk,
Sorry, man. Thanks so much for everything you just said there. Really grateful that you're just on board with the entire concept. Now, we as an organisation, we're not like against the typical white van man builder in any shape or form, but we're just trying to really just show that the white van man builder still has stresses, and it's probably a stress they can't actually identify. And one of the identifiable things is probably because keeping it in, etc. And there's just loads of proof just through the ages, just even recently, like just giving a recent example, about a month ago in the metal community, there was a lead singer of a well-known melodic death metal band by the name of Black Dahlia Murder. Their lead singer, Trevor Stannard, at 41, it appears, took his own life, and he was a very well-loved person. And it's just difficult to believe that someone as well-linked and well-loved as him still couldn't find the help anywhere in the world to basically to unload whatever was on his mind. And unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. Same thing happened to Chester Bennington of Linkin Park, Chris Cornell of Soundgarden / Audioslave, and various other projects. So, it sort of goes back to the Let There Be Talk hashtag, really, and us chatting to dudes in the metal community. Really, it's asking the question, like, talking about depression, suicidal thoughts and stuff in songs is great. It makes for really good songwriting stuff, but then it sort of stops there. There's actually not much more conversation being had. And in all fairness, a place where it does happen, and it's still nowhere near as well as it should be, is technically in a place of huge toxic masculinity, which is football.
Right.
And there's actually a lot, I think, being done in football, rugby as well. You've had a lot of, especially Welsh rugby stars, like Nigel Owens, Gareth, Alfie Thomas have come out, and they literally both did come out. Actually, that actually works this time. Sorry, just keeping it humorous. But they applied the conversation about talking out loud because of struggles with not struggles, but the internal struggle with accepting their own sexuality in public, etc. So in sports, it's actually, the ball has been rolling for quite a while, but it really hasn't in the metal communities. It's still very, very much in a very quiet place. So the whole metal thing, even if you're not interested in metal, that doesn't actually matter. It's just a universe we're going for, a theme we're going for. It helps with our branding and the themes, etc. Us guys in our group, we like games and we like cycling, cooking, films. Or we mainly talk about films most of the time because we're big movie geeks, and so you don't have to like the music to be a part of us, etc. But we just want to tap into the normality, really, that so many people have these little moments of frustrations and they actually can't put it to words. And that's one thing I always struggle with, is to put how I feel in a sentence. I always tell my wife this, is that I sometimes feel the language I possess, or the language we speak in the world now, whether it's Welsh or English, French, Arabic, whatever language you speak, I feel language hasn't evolved yet to describe properly how you feel. And I feel that's what I feel on a regular basis. So this has been a nice therapy for me, and a nice way to channel by helping others. So that's known as, I think in meditation terms, that's known as one of the 7 switches of happiness, where helping others makes you feel better about yourself. So that's a massive thing that I definitely believe in. So that's why we started really early on in the history of Metalidads, which was a couple of years ago, doing things like litter picks on Whitmore beach, the main beach on Barry Island. And it's a great place to just talk out loud because you've got the sea, the sky in the background. You don't feel confined, and it's a nice platform to discuss things that might be difficult. So when we had our first litter pig, it was just the three of us, myself, Papa Ben, and our friend Papa Lewis of Sully. We were chatting about things like a difficulty of being able to conceive children. We're talking about depression, chatting about recent albums we liked, so the next metal festival we want to go to, chatting about, I don't know, the remaking of film coming up. So it was a nice mix of things in the backdrop of the beautiful Bristol Channel, which is on our doorstep.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, like, doing good for others really is one of the easiest ways to feel good, isn't it, you know?
Absolutely, man.
So what was your personal motivation for starting this then?
Well, it was a mix of really myself and Ben had sort of similar-ish experiences roughly around the same time. But I think maybe 3 months into the pandemic when we were working from home, I was the main carer of my daughter because my wife had, I'll say main carer, but I would take her for more of a ratio of the daytime because I had less deadlines to get work ready for, and she had a lot more deadlines. So, you know, I think early on in the pandemic, we can all probably have this in common. We probably thought it was only going to last for 3 or 4 weeks and that everyone is going to be compliant and it'll all go away. How wrong were we? And I think 3 months in, I was just getting really, I was just turning into a bit of a zombie or a shell, really. I'd have low moods for a long time. I'd feel just constantly drained of energy. I'd want to go to sleep at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I would accidentally fall asleep on the bed at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And this went on for months. It affected my patience. I was irritated by tiny things my daughter was doing. At this point, I was doing something I don't do now, which is actually smack my daughter on the bum. I don't do that at all now. I haven't done it for about 2 years, but I was doing it way more frequently than I probably should have because it was mainly through frustration. And after a few months, my wife basically heavily encouraged me to call the GP, and I was reluctant to do it for quite a while. But I think in 1 week I called the GP, and through my work I can speak to I think mental health counsellors or someone like a helpline. And I sort of, a combination of called them both 1 week because I just sort of knew something's not right. I'm actually seriously almost wishing harm on myself.
Wow, okay.
That's something I'd never, ever had at any point in my life. And so just sort of one night, I think my wife went out for food with her friend. And I just sort of, and I'm not a crier really. I'm reasonably an emotive, romantic-y type of person. I like storytelling and stuff, but I'm not one to cry. But I just burst into tears after my daughter went to bed because it took me a while to get her to sleep. And I just cried my eyes out for like half an hour. I thought, this is not right. So I called the GP, and they basically, over the phone, diagnosed me with mild to moderate depression, which is something I've probably had my entire life, but not known about it. And I think within that same month, then I basically reconnected with Papa Ben. I was Ben's bass guitar teacher 10 years prior to us having this chat, and we sort of lost contact, and we basically reconnected because we both realized we've become fathers since we last met, and that was actually the mutual topic. And we had I think a Zoom conversation, and we were chatting that we don't have really much friends, especially with dads. We don't really hang out with many other people since becoming dads. We sort of comparing notes. And we sort of said, there's no dads groups, is there? It sucks. It'd be funny if you and me start a group, I know, on metal music. And it was just like a joke thing to start. And we even like came up with the name that she just like popped on my head. So that's the only thing you can call it, surely. And then the idea I thought, wow, this actually might have legs just in the regards of just a Facebook space, because at this point, we were early in the pandemic. We couldn't meet outdoors, meet up with people. So it purely started first as mainly a music sharing platform only, just for dads who've got metal in common. And it's basically grown from just having a band of the day or sharing YouTube videos or Spotify playlists to me, for example, uploading useful articles about suicide bereavement, or having discussions on, do you swear in front of your children, or do you badmouth your partner in front of your children? So it's evolved to something completely different 2 years on, something we never actually envisaged it to be, but it's just naturally turned into this, and it's actually inspired me to go a step further, where I'm actually now retraining to become a psychotherapeutic counselor and hypnotherapist. I've actually just started training. So in 3 years' time, I'm hoping Metalidads would be able to offer free hypnotherapy and counseling sessions, specifically father-focused. So that's something that's on my radar, or the Metalidads radar. So yeah, very much started with two dudes going through tough time with fatherhood, just had a chat. It was purely a comedic thing, and then it turned into something a lot more serious. And to be honest, it has absolutely changed my life here in Barry, because I now have friends who will literally kick my door down if they haven't heard from me in 2 days, because they might be worried.
That's amazing.
That's the type of people I want to surround myself with, and that's what we're trying to do here in the Metalidads community. Just have dads who look out for other dads, basically.
That's beautiful, man. And thanks, for being so open about your story as well, because, as we've said, men aren't really supposed to be emotive like that. We're supposed to be dominant and manly and have answers for everything at all times. We're not really meant to be human. So I think it's great when men such as yourself are open and honest about, their feelings and their vulnerabilities and their low points. And I think it's super inspiring that you have turned your lowest points in life into this blossoming, beautiful community that's doing so much good. I think that can be an inspiration to anybody who's going through a similar spot right now, that change is possible if you embrace change and choose change rather than committing to the fear of change or thinking that this is something that you can't do. I think your story there perfectly illustrates just how much better things can be and how much more good you can do as a person when you choose that change. And just to illustrate the point, how is your mental health now? How is your life now as a result of those changes that you made and everything, the great work that you've done ever since in setting up the community? Are things better now?
Yeah, absolutely, man. One thing that definitely is a taboo topic is medication. Now, I definitely saw, when I mean medication, I mean depression, anxiety medication. Now is definitely seen, I think, mainly because it's the image and illusion men create in their heads, or society creates in their heads, that taking medication is almost a failure. And even I thought this, like when I was told early on I had depression, where I was given the option to have depression medication. I even said to the doctor, Christ, no, I don't want any of that stuff. Not like I don't know what's in it. I'm not like a conspiracy theorist or anything. But I didn't want to, I just thought, no, I don't want to put my body full of drugs. I can do this myself. But to be honest, I gave in after a while, because the way it was sold was, it's not a magic pill that makes everything go away, because there is no magic pill that makes everything go away, and well, unfortunately, but it helps, in quotes, take the edge off. And to be honest, since I started taking the lowest dose of something called sertraline, which is one of the various different types of depression medication you can have, I've definitely felt a lot better. My low moods have gone from potentially from every other day to probably maybe an afternoon every 3 weeks, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Something like that. Now, from what the more I understand about depression, a lot of people have it. Most people who have depression can completely function with it. They can go to work, look after their kids, have a social life, etc. And most likely, most of those people in that ratio will be on a type of medication, and mostly the lowest dose. It does help, and if it helps, why delay it? And just for the sake of pride, it isn't a big deal. It's like taking, I don't know, flaxseed or vitamin C. It's just something I take every day. Well, I haven't even taken it today. I've forgotten. My memory's terrible. But generally, I feel better because of that. Absolutely, my mental health is much better than it was in sort of summer 2020 by a long shot. It really is. And again, it's because I've learned a lot more about myself. I know how to avoid certain things that will trigger me. That's a word I've never heard much of until this context. Before that, it was just Only Fools and Horses. So trigger. My favorite show, of course. Now, one of the most difficult, two of the most difficult things that I think I found, I don't want to take too much of your time, one of the two most difficult things I've done, which have helped me, one is to cut out people who are not good for me. Now, that can be very, very difficult, but I think a lot of people in the pandemic have found out they want to be doing less of things they don't enjoy, more of things they enjoy, spend more time with people they enjoy and less time with people they enjoy. That's definitely something I've been doing. And since I've been doing that, I'm just much happier generally. I don't watch the news. I haven't watched the news since around June 2020. Now, I sort of work in politics on the side. I won't go into depth. So I was reading articles on a daily basis, looking at international politics throughout the world. And sometimes knowing too much information really takes a toll on you. So basically, I stopped reading political articles. I stopped watching mainstream media, specifically mainstream media, because people don't realize that the news is basically, there's news everywhere. There's always news. The news isn't, there's only 5 things have happened today, and they're going to be on the 6 o'clock news. Nothing else happened, just these 5 things. No, there's things happening all the time. Things are selected to sort of keep people either buying products or not buying products, or to do specific activities. I'm not going to, I am political in regards, but I don't give myself over to one political party. I'm just sort of aware what everyone is doing, trying to take the best of what everyone's doing and just create my own little mini party in my head, I suppose. That's the way I look at it. So, I've stopped introducing myself to information and people that are bad for me. Now, it's been very difficult. I still find it difficult, but that hasn't had a major effect on how much happier I am as a person. And I implore people to do the same. And especially, I know it's more difficult with family, but sometimes you gotta literally think of this the act as opposed to the years of memories you might have with someone. Now, during the Black Lives Matter protest in June 2020, I'm a person that's just blatantly obvious. I love people. I want people to coexist. I know it's difficult, and I don't live on cloud cuckoo land. I completely understand that people can't, but I try to influence those around me to do that. But that got me really, really down. And I saw people in my family, people in my friends list that were just posting. Can I swear?
Fucking go for it. No, I swear all over the place.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I wasn't sure. The people were just posting utter shite on Facebook. One of my friends put a photo of Martin Luther King. Like, Martin Luther King didn't do violent protest, then why should you? Like, oh, you're going to summate all the Civil War activists in the world in one photograph. Oh, it's that simple. Okay, yeah. No, it's just not that simple. So people were almost simplifying really, really complicated issues in the form of a Facebook photograph and memes, etc. And I've been cutting people out of my life and literally saying to people, I just don't like this person. And I just refuse to sort of have anything to do with them anymore. And that's something I wasn't planning on talking to you in detail about today, but I think it's very important. And to me and my happiness, that's been absolutely paramount. It really has.
No, I'm glad you mentioned it, because I think that is super important for anybody listening to this. I think that's a great tip, because social media became so toxic during the pandemic. There was all the fake kind of, fucking medical experts that came out of everybody's friends list, and the conspiracy theories and all that sort of stuff. And, and of course, during that time, we had the Black Lives Matter and, the Trump election and stuff. So it was the temperature was very hot that year on a lot of fronts. And I ended up, because I'm very active on social media, I ended up having to do a lot of the things that you're talking about. I had to start unfollowing people and defriending people and just stepping back from it all, because it was very extreme time, wasn't it? And I think it's in times of extremity and in times of crisis that you kind of see people's true colors, including your own. Yeah. So I did exactly the same thing. I kind of realized, okay, I actually don't like this person, and I need to step back and remove that from my life, because it's not good for me. It's not good for my mental or my physical health. So I think it like you said, it's difficult to do that, especially if it's family or close friends. But ultimately, you have to for your own health.
You're spot on, man. Absolutely. I'm glad that the experience has been quite mutual for yourself, and that you've personally seen the benefits of doing it, because life is short. I think that's very much the I don't know, the motto I think I've been saying to myself a lot for the past couple of years. Life is short. Even people, for example, like maybe our parents, maybe not specifically our parents, but our parents' generation are probably coming to a bit more of a realization now that work isn't life either. Because some people, it's like work. And unfortunately, a lot of people's grandparents' generation, it's still instilled in their head. And because that's how they've been conditioned to believe, because in the world they still live in, aka their day and their rights and wrongs and their criteria, that is still the case. And I completely understand that for them is absolutely normal. And I'm not going to take your day away from you at all, but no one has ownership over time. Society, like culture, it isn't fixed. It changes and metamorphosizes over a particular time. And unfortunately, what did Bob Dylan once say? Times are a-changing, and you can't stop change. It is absolutely inevitable, and I have had to accept that. And the quicker you accept things change, the happier you'll be, I think so.
Beautiful. Yeah, 100% agree with you, man. I mean, change is the only constant, isn't it? You know, of course, we all make our plans and we set ourselves up in a way so that we're secure and insured against, future surprises. But the one thing you can guarantee is that life is always going to send you a curveball, man, That's what it does. And there's no way you can foresee everything. And I think seeking that certainty just brings a lot of tension to people's lives, and it leads them to things like, conspiracy theories or, fundamentalist religions or crazy belief systems, because we need that sense of certainty. We need answers, but there isn't any real certainty to life. There's no certainty that we're going to make it through the day tomorrow. You just don't know what's coming. So we do need coping mechanisms. We do need community. We do need an outlet for that reality. Or that tension comes out in other ways, especially for men, like I said, because we don't express stuff. So I think it's really good to see things like Andy's Man Club.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and the Running Punks. Jimmy Watkins from the Running Punks was on just a couple of weeks ago. They're doing a very similar thing to what you're doing with Metalidads, but they're doing it with running.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was awesome. Yeah. So I think it's really exciting to see these things popping up, and really, really important and powerful, I think.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. I think the pandemic's definitely been a catalyst for these other groups. There's even been another group in Barry called Max's Mates, who I haven't actually personally met yet, but a few of the Metalidads members in Barry have actually attended their sort of weekly socials. There's a great group in Bridgend run by a friend of mine called Rob Lester. It's Lads and Dads in Bridgend. I think on their Facebook group, they're nearing I think they might have hit the 1,000 mark.
Wow. Already,
I think so. So they do like going for cold water dips in Porthcawl really early in the morning type of thing. Unfortunately, I'm dealing with children that time in the morning, so there's no way you can get me to Porthcawl or even Barry Island at that time in the morning, unfortunately. But it is really good, because I think you need to capture an imagination. So just sort of going back to the almost the original idea of Metalidads. Now, I was a part of a group called NCT Dads. But NCT is sort of like it was sort of like it's almost like a national charity for parents. I say it's a charity. You sort of have to pay membership to get a lot of benefits, etc. But you can become a free member. Now, I used to meet with NCT Dads sort of, once a month to go to a pub quiz in Cardiff, and the guys were all really nice. Nothing wrong with the guys whatsoever, lovely chaps. But the chat always heavily revolved around football.
Right.
Now, I got nothing wrong with football. I like football. I like all sports, not one more than the other. I'm a bit of an all-rounder where it comes to sports. But when they were talking in depth, like the conversation just went completely over my head. I just felt like... I just really found it difficult just to engage in conversation. So that's always stuck in my mind. and it's something my Papa Ben believes in as well, is being a dad is not enough to form a bond with another dad. There has to be a spark of something as an escapism away from being a dad and away from being married and away from maybe having internal struggles, etc. Whether it is football, whether it is metal music, whether it is running, there needs to be a mutual interest. And once you can take the mutual interest, you can actually have fun with it. And that's one thing I think we do pretty well. Like, for example, every Monday, we have on the Facebook page Metal Mondays, where we introduce a band of the week. Sometimes it's bands people have heard of, then sometimes it's obscure ones, most likely people haven't heard of. And it's a way of us to upsell the people we interview from Napalm and Metal Blade records. So, I just think that's a really, really important thing. And then again, I think one thing I've been trying to work on from the beginning is just getting the right tone. I think we got a right tone in how we brand things and how we get our information across, because we're trying to cover three things, really. We're trying to cover metal music, mental health, and parenthood. So trying to find a tone which sort of fits the three. So we try to upload information with those 3/3 of themes basically throughout the week. So we got Metal Monday, Trooper Tuesdays, basically, where we're trying to get discussion topics for dads to maybe admit like a difficulty or like admit a truth about a taboo topic, like, for example, medication.
Right.
As an example, we have Wellness Wednesdays. Like today, for example, I'm looking at my Facebook today, Metalidads. Today, Wellness Wednesday. Funny enough, I've asked, has anyone here ever tried hypnotherapy, help with anxiety, overcoming a phobia, or to stop smoking? Was it beneficial, or how was it overall? So ask those types of questions. Then Fridays, we have Fatherly Fridays. This week on Fatherly Friday, I think I've included the topic of, wait for it, your kids vomiting in public. That's this week's theme, because that happened to me last week for the first time. I've dealt with loads of vomit in the house. I'm not going to talk about it much more, but there's an example where my child did it in Caerphilly last week after we visited Caerphilly Castle.
We've all vomited in Caerphilly.
Yeah, I think I have as well. So, we went to a cafe. My daughter had a huge ice cream, and we keep forgetting how small her stomach is. She's almost 4, but she sometimes eats and eats and eats, and she doesn't know when to stop. And the ice cream basically came out, and 20 seconds passed, and not a single person came to ask us if we needed any help.
Wow.
And people were looking at us, and it sort of caused me to think, I'm gonna create a ranty video now and put it on the Metalidads page. So that's the theme for Friday, because it is a common thing that would have happened to a dad probably at least once, at least definitely. So that's obviously a father theme, a kid theme. So that's reserved for Fridays. So we just do things like that. We try to cover the entire board, and like we put this graphic up every couple of weeks. It's called the James-ometer. Bear with me. It's basically different photographs of James Hetfield of Metallica with either sad James, happy James, angry James. And we try to associate an emoji with a picture. So we try to ask dads to check in and say how they're doing on that day. And if they give any one of 2 emojis, then we'd reach out to them on the day and ask, is everything going? Do you need any support today? Can I get you anything?
That's brilliant, man.
That type of thing. So we again, that's sort of tapping into the theme, adding a little bit of humor over something that can be quite serious. So that's the tone we've been trying to master, I suppose, since our inception.
I love that, man. I think what you're doing is absolutely brilliant, and I commend you for doing it. And I totally agree with you. It's great that there's this variety now, so that, if there's blokes who just want to talk about football with other like-minded blokes, and then feel safe to talk about other things, then they've got their club, But it's great that you've picked this kind of niche for the metal community, because I think it is a big deal in the metal community. I mean, the heavy metal has always been quite a kind of macho genre as well, hasn't it? You know what I mean? It's a kind of a man's sport, So I think it's great that you've honed in on that niche, which is obviously something that you're personally passionate about, but so are so many other people, and it is a problem. Bad mental health is a problem within the metal community. Musicians. I had Ian Winwood on a couple of episodes ago, who recently released a book called Bodies. He was a music journalist for Kerrang for like 30 years. He used to hang out with like Green Day.
I thought I recognised the name. Yeah, I used to read a lot of Kerrang.
Oh yeah, he's pretty much the main guy. guy. And it's all about this issue, basically, within the community of musicians. And he quoted a statistic. I hope I'm not misquoting it, but I'm pretty certain he said that suicide rates amongst musicians are twice as high as the general population, which is fucking mind-blowing when you think about it. So the fact that you're doing this within the musical community and to see that it's spreading so well as well nationally is absolutely brilliant. So you're doing life-saving work, and we all sort of salute you for that, man.
Thanks, man. That's actually one of our says that on the back of one of our t-shirts. For those about to talk, we salute you, based on the AC/DC song. I was about to rock. Fire. Because why not? Again, that's the universe we're going for.
That's going to be the clip I'm going to use for the promo, dude.
And I was about to rock. Fire. Yeah, why not? Sorry, I forgot to tell you, I used to impersonate singers, but it's been a while. But Brian Johnson's one of the easier ones.
Really? Really? He's got to be the hardest guy to replicate.
No, it's quite easy. He's just no, I think it's quite easy. It's just he hasn't got much variation in his voice.
No,
really. It'd be good to replicate him on the Back in Black album. That's difficult because that's the only album we actually did actual tenor. Tenuous tenor singing as well, but everything after Back in Black, it was all the same.
But could you do it for 2 hours straight?
Probably not. I used to be in like a classic rock tribute band when I was between age 14 and 19. We did what did we do? We did Back in Black and You Shook Me All Night Long and Highway to Hell, I think.
Wow,
so.
Jesus Christ.
Even though Highway to Hell was sung by a different singer, so I try and imitate him then. But on a good day, I could imitate the both of them. It's almost like a party trick I used to be able to do when I had a bit more of a singing voice, when my vocal health was taken a bit more seriously. So yeah, I'm a bit of a muso as well. I have been since I was 14. So that's sort of another thing I enjoy about Metalidads is my relationship as well with general music as well as metal music, because rock was my first love. Rock and metal was definitely my first love. And even as a teenager, I absolutely hated school. Hated school, but that was when I came home from school, plug the bass guitar and stick Ride the Lightning on by Metallica. My troubles would go away.
Same.
Absolutely go away.
Exactly the same. Yeah, no, 100%, man. And what are you listening to these days then? What's rocking your boat?
Well, do you know what? That's actually another thing Metalidads has helped me with is my music listening. Now, generally, I think the data shows that when you reach 24 years old, you sort of reach your peak in your listening and your taste. And then after that, most people just regurgitate the same music. I can definitely say I fit into that category because of my lifestyle. So from age 24, 25, I lived abroad for a bit. I then was in and out of jobs, went to live abroad again, and I sort of came back, and then I had a busy lifestyle, met my wife, was doing bits and bobs around Cardiff where I lived at the time. So I hadn't really had a lifestyle. I could actually listen to much new metal music, and I was just comfortable in listening to the same stuff. And after I was listening to the same stuff, I got completely bored of the same stuff. But me and Ben in Metalidads, we actually started our own podcast, and it's the same podcast which we do the metal interviews.
Oh, cool.
And our podcast is called the Fathers of Metal podcast.
Right, love it.
And we're on YouTube. So basically type in Metalidads on YouTube, and that's the Fathers of Metal podcast. So Ben and I were doing something called Rockerspective. Now, Rockerspective is basically me and Ben in 1 month. We would listen to as many albums as we humanly could within 1 month from a particular year in music. So the first one we ever did was 1990. Then I think we did 1984, then 2001. We were going to do 2020, but we just ran out of time because life just got busy. So I've been listening to so much new music because of the Rockerspective shows we were doing. And it's basically introduced me to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bands. Some bands I knew about, but never ever invested the time into listening to them. And I've got definitely new favorite bands now. I still go back to my old favorites now and again, like Metallica, Judas Priest. I'm a huge fan of Dragon Force, just because they're hilarious live. probably the band I've seen most of my life is probably Dragon Force. But I like all sorts now. I like the heaviest type of metal. Never used to, because as a singer, I judge what I like by the singing,
right.
And I never liked the heavy stuff because it was growly. And if that's a word. And then I think a week before we were due to have a second child, my wife took a tumble outside her house, and we were a bit worried. She didn't feel much movement in the womb, so I drove her to hospital, and I had to wait in the car park for a few hours. So during that time, Ben and I were doing the Rock Perspective research for the year 2001. And I was quite on edge because I was worried, because she was worried that there might be something wrong with the baby. So I was in the car and I put on an album called Jane Doe by a early, I think, deathcore band called Converge from 2001.
Okay, yeah.
And it's a really heavy album. And the only way I can describe it is I put the album on, and the heaviness and the dissonance of this music was just going over my head like water in a shower. It was just going over me, soothing me in a way I'd never thought this type of music could. And since that day or that moment, I've been able to tolerate and actually enjoy really heavy music because of this one instance. And I listen to all sorts now. I'm a big death metal fan all of a sudden. Cannibal Corpse were my sort of gateway band into death metal. I do like them. This morning I was listening to the horror comedy metal band Ice Nine Kills, who I believe are gigging in March in Bristol, which I might go to. I'm a big thrash metal fan.
Yeah,
I've become a massive fan over the past couple of years, especially the past year, of the German bands, specifically Destruction and Creator. So, in metal music, specifically thrash, there's something called the Big Four, so Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax. There's also the Big Four in Germany, which would be Creator, Sodom, Destruction, and Tankard. I actually interviewed the bassist for Tankard in one of the earliest Metalidads interviews, a guy called Frank. And he was amazing. He was such a nice guy. And the German thrash I'm a massive fan of. Again, last week I interviewed a band called Kardashev from Arizona. They technically are a band that has coined the term death gaze, which is a new subgenre of metal potentially. So I've been listening to their album lots and lots. And again, Creator, the German thrash band, they released an album on Friday called Hate Über Alles, and I've listened to that 3 or 4 times. I had it on this morning again. Loving that album currently. So it definitely has expanded my listening, but I am currently very much into heavy thrash and death metal. But then in the car, I like the Book of Mormon. I like Disney. I like absolutely everything. Yeah. There's a time and a place for everything. I'm a big fan of movie scores. Hans Zimmer, John Williams, James Horner, Ennio Morricone. So I got a massive list, but heavily in the death metal camp currently.
Isn't it strange what you said? It washed over you like a shower and soothed you, because I feel the same when I listen to like a super heavy band like Ginger or something like that. It's strange how it is soothing to have that fucking wall of noise. It's just.
It's like white noise, I suppose. Some people find white noise very soothing.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Just like aggression and that wall of sound just fucking. It's like a bathing in nice warm water for me. I can't describe it, but I know exactly what you mean. It's a strange one.
But this album I've been listening to recently by the band we interviewed last week, Kardashev, I actually fell asleep to it the other night, and it's really heavy blast beats and wow. And I actually fell asleep to it. I thought, wow, I can't believe if I told myself a year ago I'd be falling asleep to blackened death metal with atmospheric strings and stuff, I'd be laughing my ass off. But
Sounds awesome,
I am
man.
now, and it's hilarious.
I gotta go check out all those bands.
Yeah, no, what I'll do, you and me obviously got on the side of this, we've got a group chat going, so I'll give you some recommendations of stuff I really enjoyed recently, because that's what Metalidads has done for me now. It's sort of let me discover a lot of obscure stuff which the general rock listener would never get introduced to. It wouldn't come on their radar.
Right.
So my knowledge of what's out there now has increased massively.
That's awesome.
One thing I would love to do in the future, because you can do this and it'll sort of hopefully come in hand with a health element, is to do like a doctorate in heavy metal. That's something I would love to do. There are places in the world where you can do a doctorate to become a doctor of heavy metal. That would just be the coolest thing ever, man.
That is fucking awesome. You've got to do that, man. A doctor of heavy metal. Because
heavy metal.
That's the old thing, isn't it? It's like, hey, baby, you know, the doctor has spoken. What are you a doctor of? Fucking hard rocking, baby, you know? you would actually be a certified doctor of heavy metal. So that'd be awesome. You got to do that, man.
Because I'm sure you could even become a doctor on Lady Gaga somewhere in one university in the world. And I think it's Botswana. There's a University of Gaborone in Botswana. You can become a doctor of or study Brexit as a topic. So yeah, I know. Not for me, thank you. No, thank you.
No.
But Lady Gaga any day, definitely.
A doctor of heavy metal. I do
like Lady Gaga.
Like, you got to do
doctor
that.
Heavy metal, yeah. One day when I get more time. So probably, I don't know when, but yeah, that's something that's on my radar. Is one of those things I've always fancied checking out because it'd be a cool thing to add to the the qualifications and B, the theme.
Damn right, man. Yeah, and with your hypnotherapy and the NLP thing you were talking about doing as well, to retraining, to converge those two things, you'd be like some kind of you'd be like some heavy metal hypnotizing wizard or something.
Yeah, dressed as I don't know,
Gandalf.
Gandalf, yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think of a power metal band, or become really muscly. Have a sword like one of the Manowar cover albums or something.
Yeah. Wearing a thong.
yeah. I wish I had the bod to rock a thong, but between you and me, Jimmy, I don't. So,
those guys are fucking hilarious, man. Just the album covers, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck?
Just to sort of finish, right, on Manowar, this is a funny topic. Now, I'm a Patreon of a chap called Dane Campbell.
Yeah.
Dane Campbell is the son of Phil Campbell. Phil Campbell is the Motorhead guitarist. Yeah. And Phil now has a band called Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons. He basically plays with his three sons and then another singer on top. Now, the Dane is the drummer. I knew him from working in Cranes in Cardiff many, many years ago. And I'm a Patreon to his podcast called Drum for the Song, which is a brilliant podcast. He interviews drummers from lots of famous bands. The best episode, I think, was Matt Sorum of Guns N' Roses. That was a really cool episode. And Nigel Glocker of Saxon, I think that was the first episode. But anyway, so I support him. And once a month, if you're a patron, you get to have a Skype hangout. So I've not been able to meet him. I know him anyway, but I haven't been able to attend these Skype hangouts for ages because I've been busy with family. But one time I set time aside, I will turn up. So I turned up with a bunch of blokes. And then who accidentally stumbles in on the call is Phil Campbell himself.
Right.
The guitarist of Motorhead, and he accidentally clicked on the wrong link because he was looking for a podcast on bird watching.
Right.
So it was quite funny because obviously he still calls him Dad. So I said, Dad, what are you doing here? I was like, Dad, why have you come into my room? Or in South Park where Stan's dad logs into World of Warcraft. It's like, Dad, what are you doing here? Get out, log off. It's sort of one of those embarrassing moments. It's like, I don't know what to click. It was really funny. But Dane then said, well, you're here now, Dad. You might as well hang out with the guys because they obviously want to ask you questions and stuff. And we actually got talking about Manowar,
right?
Because Phil had never, in all his metal experience, he'd never heard of the genre of power metal. Now, power metal is the Dungeons and Dragons, the wizardsy type of style of metal, like Sabaton, I suppose, is the most famous current example of power metal, even though they have the subgenre of almost like battle metal, technically. But Phil Campbell had never heard of power metal. I thought, where the hell have you been in the past 40 years? Sharing stages with bands. Surely you've been on stage next to a power metal band. But I had to explain it to him. And I mentioned the band Manowar. And he told me the story that, in his Pontiacs. And I was in Yeah, I remember in the mid-'80s, me and Ronnie James Dio, we went to a gig and we watched Manowar, and they were fucking terrible. They were obnoxious. They were cocky. And me and Ronnie, we looked at each other and say, "Oh, just didn't like them. They're just absolutely obnoxious bastards." I thought, oh my God. So Manowar were my favorite bands. He was telling me that one of my favorite bands are absolutely a bunch of dicks. And it was just, I had to laugh. It was just so funny. So
that's hilarious.
That happened recently. And the fact that he name dropped the great Ronnie James Dio, who's in his presence during this time, was just awesome. I thought, wow, okay, I'll accept your destroying one of my favorite bands because you're with the man, the Mr. Horns himself. But yeah, I just want to share that with you because I know you'd appreciate that.
That's a great story. Yeah, man. Well, I know Dane. Yeah, we're thinking of him coming on the podcast at some point as well. So I'll ask him about his dad's Manowar stories, and we'll get that confirmed on air as well.
I'm sure he's got a lot more stories. But yeah, Dane's a top chap. He was actually the first person I ever interviewed, literally the same week I came up with the concept, or we came up with the concept of Metalidads, I'm a fan of Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons, and I knew they were working on a new album. So he was my first guest. So he was really good.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'll definitely go back and check out the podcast episodes as well. So for people listening to this, I know they're going to be super excited to get involved. How can people join? Where do they go? How do they get involved?
Yeah, sure. So if you want to contact us directly, just to chat to us, we are on metalidads@hotmail.com. But we, again, with our podcast, you can find us on YouTube. Just type in Metalidads, and then we'll be the first thing that come up. We've got the symbol of the rock and roll, the horns, the two fingers pointing out, and two dummies at the bottom. So that's us, Metalidads. And we do have two Facebook pages. We've got a community group where you just like the page, and that's welcome for anybody to join. But if you are a dad, and that is the only criteria you have to be, is just a dad, even if you're not into metal music and you still want to join us. Again, we do have a private group where you then join. So you'll see two options for Metalidads. So to join the group, it is basically www.facebook.com/groups/Metalidads, or just www.facebook.com/Metalidads, just for the community group. And then we're on Instagram and we're on Twitter as well. But if you live in Barry or near Barry, we are in Barry Rugby Club every Wednesday night from 8:00, and then next week every Saturday morning from 10 till 12, and Holton Road, we are in Awesome Wales Zero Waste Shop having a coffee or a cup of tea and a chinwag. And normally dads bring their kids to that one as well, so it's nice to cool. It has a bit more of a family thing as well, so we get regular kids turn up quite regularly, just even though some might just be on their iPad or whatever, but they're nice and quiet and they're engaging conversation now and again. So that's the way to keep in touch with us, and we'd love to hear from you, and if you need anything, come and have a chat with us.
That's awesome. And you said that this is now expanded nationally as well. So is this a model that people can, if there's not a local group near to someone that's listening to this and wants to get involved, can people sort of just replicate this model and set their own local group up?
Well, if they want to do a local group up, yes. However, we do have Metalidads as a trademarked organization. Right. So when we do become... we're not aiming to become a global force. We're basically just trying to look after the people we have now. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we're not trying to take over the world. It's really much about quality,
keeping it manageable,
over quantity, and keeping it manageable. So we do have the dream of becoming a Wales-wide organization first. But in regards to maybe online groups, maybe that is a possibility in the future for people to open up opportunities around that. But so currently we are just online, and then we are only in Barry in Southeast Wales. But I'm from Cardigan originally, hence the accent. Yeah, now we do have members in Cardigan, so I'm trying to make Cardigan potentially the second town of Metalidads over Cardiff, because because in a smaller town, an idea like this is a lot more manageable, and the news of it spreads a lot easier. So in a town the size of, say, Barry, Pontypridd, Caerphilly, Bridgend, for example, Cardigan, Haverfordwest, Aberystwyth, etc., they're nice sized towns for this type of idea to manifest.
Awesome. And how do you guys stay afloat then? How do you keep the operation running? I mean, do you function as a charity, or is it a subscription thing? Do people donate, or do you guys fund this yourselves? I mean, how do you stay afloat? How can people help?
Well, thanks for asking, dude. So we are available on the localgiving.com website. So localgiving.com/Metalidads. You can donate if you wanted to help us with our signposting project, or for us to be able to run other things for fathers in the local community in Barry and Cardiff. You're more than welcome to donate. However, so far, we've done little things like some fundraising, and we've basically had our funding from grants available to us in the area. So we had an amazing bit of luck recently by having a grant from the National Lottery, a community fund of £3,500.
Nice.
So that's enabled us to be able to put dads on mental health first aid courses,
wow,
which is what's going to become available to dads in autumn. And we've a large chunk of that has been set aside for motivational speakers. So we've been using the platform of the app Cameo, where you can get like celebs to send you video messages. So we've already had Matt Heafy of Trivium give advice to new dads with newborns about the importance of staying patient, etc. He gave us a lot of good advice, and actually did a booking for probably one of the biggest metal stars on Cameo last night, but it has to remain a secret.
Okay.
There's going to be hopefully a happy Father's Day message by this particular character. So I'm hoping he comes through by Sunday. Otherwise, that's 200 quid wasted for him being 2 days late. So, so hoping he comes through by Sunday. So I'll let you know about that.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on, give us your time today and explaining what Metalidads is. It sounds like an absolutely amazing project that I know is going to change so many people's lives, and I know it's going to inspire many people listening to this to, to maybe come out of their comfort zone, like you said, and to reach out if they're struggling as well. And it's awesome to know that there is a group there such as this where people can do that. So on behalf of all of us blokes and us metal fans, we salute you, man, for everything you've done. And I know it must take up so much of your time and a lot of work, especially juggling family and work life as well. So it's duly noted what you're doing and how hard you're working on it, and all of the other dads as well. So on behalf of all of us, thank you so much, man. It's been brilliant to talk to you today. I've loved it.
Dude, thank you so much for your support and just your belief in the idea. We're really, really happy that we've captured your imagination as well. So stay heavy and stay healthy.
Love it. And do you want to give us one more Brian Johnson to finish up with?
And I was about to run.
You do that too well. And on that note, we bid you farewell. Thank you, dude.
You're welcome, dude.
Best wishes with everything. We'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks, dude. Look after yourself. Cheers.
You too. Thank you, bro. I'm jealous that he can sing Brian Johnson so well. That's fucking hard to sing, man. He's lying when he says it's easy. It's not. I'm more of a, if I do an impression of a metal guy, I'm more of a James Hetfield kind of low down, oh yeah, baby. Hell yeah. I'm more down there, But if I could sing Johnson, I'd be doing it all the time, trust me. So what did you think of that? Super interesting, yeah? I do love that the conversation about mental health and, expressing your feelings and actually just being a normal human being, it's becoming such a normal thing now. This idea that a man has to be dominant and, talk over people and push people around and be tough and, doesn't have any emotions, never gets upset and takes the piss out of people who are, that's such an old-fashioned, outdated thing. I mean, it's not the fucking 1850s anymore, the 1920s. You know what I mean? It's like 2022, for Christ's sake. And it's always those jackasses that are trying to act like Mr. Tough Guy. They're the most fucking, delicate and vulnerable. And if they, and that's a much better look. There's nothing wrong with being delicate and vulnerable and, scared or not knowing the answer to something. There's nothing wrong with that, or sensitive. I mean, that's a much better look. I'd much rather hang out with people like that than some fucking douchebag who's trying to act like he's fucking Rambo when he's clearly not, So I think it's great that we're evolving to a place of maturity now where, both men and women, and everybody can have an open conversation about these very human feelings. I think it's healthy for the person. It's healthy for the people that person is in a relationship with, their partner or their parents or their kids or their friends. And I think it's healthy for society more generally. So I commend and salute groups such as the Metalidads and Andy's Man Club and the Running Punks and so many others. And I'm sure there's going to be lots more coming on the podcast as well. At the moment, most of these are focused on men, which tells you a lot, doesn't it? It's like it has to be a special fucking group where men could actually just like talk about the sort of shit that women just talk about openly, normally amongst themselves, you know? So if this seems like it's a little bit man-centric, it's just because this is very much a male problem. This kind of expressing your emotions rather than going and beating the shit out of somebody or, as in so many tragic cases, actually killing themselves. So these groups are really important. And yes, they are unfortunately very male-centric because that's just the way our society has brought men up to behave. So for all the fellas out there, get involved in these things, man. I mean, they're great fun. It's not just all sitting around talking about your problems, you know, it's playing heavy metal music or talking about football or, you know, doing fun man shit, you know what I mean? But in an environment where you can actually talk to people who are mature and evolved enough as men to actually talk about some important shit too, you know? There's no shame in it. It doesn't mean you're weak. It actually takes a lot more courage and strength to be open about the fact that you have these very normal human problems and feelings and concerns and fears when any fucking dick can just pretend that they don't and act like tough guy from the movies, you know, that's an easy way out. It actually it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength that you're actually able to confront your problems and to do something about it. It takes a lot of strength and a lot of courage, and I commend anybody for doing so. So it's great that there are groups out there to make that process easier. Do hunt down your local group, wherever you may be listening from, and it could quite possibly be the best thing you ever do in your life. So that's my rant over and out. Until next time, I shall love you and leave you in peace. One last nag before you clock off to subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the thing, man. It helps me out. Click like, click share, leave some comments on the page. People always message me their thoughts. Put it on the page, put it on YouTube or wherever you listen to the podcast. And then, you know, provoke a public debate and a conversation. You might get some more interesting shit from the people responding, links and such and so forth. And if you do want to contribute to the maintenance of the podcast, there is a link at paypal.me/JamesKennedyUK where you can offload a few shekels on there and support the maintenance of the podcast, because it does take up a few days of my week doing these things and equipment and, you know, hosting costs and things like that. So if you are able to contribute, that would be awesome. No pressure, of course. You know, I'll probably still keep fucking doing it anyway, but it does help. And I really do appreciate those of you that have done so. Until next time, enjoy yourselves. Have a great week. I love you loads. And thanks for the support. I'll catch you next week. Cheers.